Good morning, everybody, and thanks very much for inviting me along to speak today. It really is. I'll just give a little bit of context, only for the fact that it just helps us understand how we got to where we are with the HERU. And so, really, from that years of experience, there was a couple of things that came out, really. One was that with the recycling target set, the heaviest fraction to collect was garden trimmings. And garden trimmings are basically 55% water. So what we were doing is we were giving everybody a new winning bin, and we were then putting on another additional fleet of vehicles, and we were basically essentially collecting 55% water, bringing it back to a composting facility, making it into compost, and then it wouldn't meet the PAS 100 grade, so it couldn't be sold as compost, so it ends up on the landfill site as landfill cover. So that was the one crazy situation. The next crazy situation was plastics, really. We would be asked by local authorities as an industry, not just us, we need to take the pots, tubs and trays. We say, well, there's no market anywhere in the world for pots, tubs and trays. So as an industry, we were forced really to take all of the plastics as a mixed grade of plastics and then send them to Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia, and then they would separate out the PET and the HDPE and then dump the rest into the ocean. And that's basically what happened. The unintended consequence of the landfill directive is we just swapped the landfill for the ocean. So we thought that what we really needed to do was come up with something that just stops this practice, stops the material being moved. The waste is projected to grow significantly over the next few years. So in underdeveloped countries, we're seeing huge increases by percentage. So the problem's not about to get any smaller anytime soon. Cool. And we're now paying businesses £3,000 a megawatt hour to switch their electricity off in the winter months to make sure that we can power our cars and power our homes. It's a ludicrous situation. We're falling outside of, falling into the worst productive country in Europe. At the same time, we're paying our businesses to switch their electricity off so people can actually heat their homes. So the legal definition of waste is if the holder wants to discard the material with no further purpose. So you have a sandwich, you eat the one half of the sandwich and you take the kilojoules of energy out of that one half of the sandwich to energize yourself. And then the other half that you don't eat, you would have no choice but to discard with no further purpose. Therefore, it becomes assigned to the waste system. So the idea with the HERU is that it's a hybrid heat pump, sits within the curtilage of the property, and it allows you to make a technical choice to put the other half of the sandwich in the HERU and energize your house with the other half of that sandwich. So the HERU would sit at the outside of the house. It's IP45 rated. We think the majority of the homes in the UK would probably prefer just to roll out the 2 wheelie bins and stick in the HERU, the pipes and all of the other things. So what is the HERU? HERU is a pyrolysis unit. It's not an incinerator. It doesn't combust. There's no oxygen inside the chamber, so it can't incinerate. You can't produce dioxins and purines unless you've got chlorine present. So by pyrolysizing the material, you actually heat it up in the absence of oxygen. So if you took a dinosaur in a tree and you buried it and you left it for 5 to 9 million years, starved of oxygen, it would decompose over that period of time and become oil, gas and char. The HERU does the same in 5 hours instead of 5 to 9 million years, using heat pipe technology, which we borrowed from NASA. And then we've repatented it for our process. So left to recycle, you'd have a collection from your house, probably once every 2 months, bi-monthly collection, probably Worcestershire City, for example, would probably only need to have one vehicle because that one vehicle would be deployed over the month, and they'll be collecting from your home your metals and your glasses and your rubber and leather and things like that, which will go to your household recycling facilities. So the validation process, my goodness me, I was sort of got all a little bit upset about how long it was taking us 10 years in the development. We've had some amazing engineers, and we still have some amazing engineers. Nigel Green joined us from Arga Rangemaster, has been with us, been with Arga Rangemaster for 16 years, heading up their new toilet development. And I was talking to Catherine Bennett up at Glasgow, up at the conference there, and she was saying you really need to read James Dyson's book to help put things in perspective. And it was really interesting, actually, and it was the best book I've ever read. I've not read many books, but it was brilliant. The 12 years it took to bring the bagless vacuum cleaner from prototype to production, and obviously the vacuum cleaner, not doing down what he's created, which is just phenomenal, was already in existence. So this has been a task, to say the very least. Not only do you have to go through the validation process and all of the testing, but it's the fact that the testing houses have never heard of a HERU or never had a HERU before. So you've then got to try and spend, I think it's since 2017, and we've just signed the contract with BSI, to the notified body, to do UK CA and C certification. So the commissioning is going on now. We've sold the first machine to Severn Trent Water, and part of that consortium is Severn Trent, Thames Water, United Utilities, Welsh Water, Southern Water, and Thames, through Off-Water. And they're going to put them at the front end of the sewage works. We've got Siemen's taking one at Congleton. They're saying it's their global flagship manufacturing facility. Perkins, their engine building facility, and they're using the heater spray booth where they paint the engines. We've got a hotel taking one to a heater spa. There's lots of different sort of applications. But this is us commissioning the machine now, so we're just embarking on that UK CA and C certification, and the machine's due to go up there in about the next 8 weeks or so. So our first marketplaces, the NHS is another one that's taking one of our early adopters. So, and it's a bit like the first mobile phone. The first mobile phone comes out in 1984, the Motorola, $10,000 US in 1984, which is the equivalent to $28,800 today. And they couldn't make them fast enough. The HERU is a bit like that in that regard. They're expensive to produce the first ones. But we expect the domestic HERUs to be about £6,000. We're just, quite well advanced now with securing a 120-acre site to build. So we've got the next challenge we've got now, we've got to find another 4,500 staff, and we've been producing about 500,000 of the heat pumps here in the UK, and then 2 factories in the US and 1 in mainland Europe, so producing 2 million heat pipes a year. So this is what it's all about, really. It's not only the reduction of CO2, the reduction of methane, it's also the fact that we'll stop the plastics getting into the waste system, which is well evidenced to not be dealing with them in an environmentally friendly fashion. So top right-hand corner, that's how much CO2 a home would be producing, 1.6 tonnes there or thereabouts, so 68 square metre home per year. If you put an electric heat pump in and keep the waste system, which is the bottom left, you would turn that positive 1.6 into a minus 5 kilograms. And then with the HERU going through bronze, silver and gold versions, so the bronze would be the HERU running on CH4, on natural gas, it increased 75 kilos. But then as we go into renewable energy and renewable gas, then the HERU will save negative 475 kilos of CO2 per year per house every year. So that's a 2-tonne swing, 2,025 kilogram swing. So based on 20 million houses on gas here in the UK alone, we're talking about 40 million tonnes of CO2 saving if each house has a hybrid heat pump. So yeah, so they're basically the results of what we're doing. We're looking very closely at the displacement at the moment in the car industry of really valuable employees. And as the car industry moves towards electric, there's less moving parts in the cars, less people, and so we're seeing now already car manufacturers releasing people, making people redundant. We want to suck those skills into our business.